Next up, just in case if anybody has questions, keep them. We have 2 more speakers, and then we have a little half an hour chin wag, like I call it, just a little chat. So write them down somewhere. You will be heard. Next up is Bethany Koby from Technology Will Save Us, and her talk, Will Technology Save Us?
Hi, so my name's Bethany. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a company called Technology Will Save Us. And it was a great setup for what I'm going to talk about, because our business is pretty much based on a lot of the things that were just discussed. So I'm going to start with a little bit of a background as to why we started the business, my background, kind of where the inspiration for starting a business around this came from. So a trash can, an unlikely place for a business to start. So my background's in design, branding, innovation. My co-founder's background is in something called physical computing. So basically engineering for creative applications, building large-scale interactive installations, objects, spaces. So if you kind of throw our skills together, Technology Will Save Us is kind of what happens. So we found a laptop in our trash can a few years ago. Someone just threw away a laptop, a perfectly good laptop, a new installed of Windows XP, a battery in a case. They just didn't want it. And we kind of began this dialogue around the fact that we have so much technology, but we don't really know what to do with it. We don't know how to fix it. We don't really know what to do with it when we don't want it. And most importantly, we really don't understand or necessarily have the desire to make things and solve problems with it. And our backgrounds and our careers had always been around using technology as a tool for creativity, not just a medium. And so that's really where the kind of inspiration for starting a business around this was. We wanted to challenge ourselves. Could we start a business that really inspired people to be producers of it, not just consumers of it? So we focus on what we call instigating 21st century learning. And for us, we define 21st century learning very specifically. We think it's digital and it's physical, which means we think it's on and offline, which means we also think it's hardware and it's software. We don't see the computer as the medium for creativity. We see it as a tool. We love the computer as a tool, as a medium as well, but for us, it's really as a tool. And we also define it as we think it happens around the kitchen table and in the classroom. We don't think that learning in the 21st century is just confined to the barriers of schools necessarily. So all of this is not just based on stuff that we've necessarily invented. We're really standing on the shoulders of a lot of activities that have been happening in the world for quite a long time. So the maker movement, I don't know if a lot of people know this terminology, but the maker movement is a kind of groundswell of makers globally that are coming together both on and offline to share making everything from giant robots all the way to knitting circles, and they come together in lots of different spaces. One in particular that's really exciting is Maker Faire. Maker Fairs attract hundreds of thousands of people globally. The last one in Rome had, I think, like 40,000 people at the first event. This is exciting to us because it helps us see that there is already a group of people using making, specifically around technology, as a medium to solve problems and to explore. There's a lot of educational pedagogies that we base our practices around. Montessori, John Dewey, constructivism, Seymour Papert. There's so many practices and pedagogies around learning by doing, and humans really understanding theories through practice, not just theory, which is a lot of what we base our development around. So, getting to the point, what we do is we've developed a collection of a digital and physical ecosystem of products, basically what we call DIY gadgets. So basically they help people to make, play, code, and invent their own gadgets. So you learn things like soldering, electronics, programming, and design. Those are kind of the foundational skills we think are required to be able to be a real maker and producer of technology. And really in line with this idea of learning by doing, we also feel that people learn more when they care about what they're going to make. So we design our kits around everyday life themes like gardening, cycling, gaming, because again, we think if you already like music, why not make something connected to music? So that is a really nice pathway of learning. So some of our kits include things like Electrodo, which is conductive Play-Doh, a really nice way of introducing basic electronics, using something as simple as Play-Doh. So I have a 3-year-old, and we turn LEDs on, we make motors spin, we make buzzers buzz. It's a really nice, malleable and physical way of introducing electronics to an already exciting kind of process. Things like Thirsty Plants. I have yet to meet someone that doesn't need this or know people that need it. You make a moisture sensor out of plaster and nails. It's solar powered, and when your plant needs watering, an LED flashes to tell you to water your plants. So a really nice way of introducing things like sensors, very, very important to the world of technology and understanding how they work, but also really physical and solving a kind of problem, which is quite exciting. DIY speakers increasingly becoming one of my favorite kits. So you solder an amplifier, and then you design and construct speakers out of any material. It includes a balloon, because in one of our workshops, someone made one out of a balloon, and it sounded so great. We now include a balloon in every box. But we've had speakers made from everything from cardboard boxes all the way to 3D printed amazing cases, to CNC cut devices, to wood. So it's a really nice way of introducing making and the process of electronics into kind of the physical world. I always share this because it's really important to our process. So we design our products based on something called user-centered design, which basically means that we don't just make assumptions on what we think the needs are and the skills needed for the audiences that we're designing for. So in this particular process, we worked with 300 young people around the UK in 9 regions to understand what were they already learning in school, do they like making, and most importantly, what kinds of things does a 9-year-old like to do in their everyday life? We use that research as a starting place for a design development process where we create a minimum viable kit, which is a kit that's just good enough to put in the hands of people to get feedback, and then we iterate. This is basically like a software agile process, but we're doing it with physical hardware. We're getting feedback regularly from teachers, from families, from young people to basically help make our kits as great, exciting, and useful as possible. So basically, the process reveals a lot of stuff to us. And in this particular case, a bunch of themes came out of it, which was great. And the themes were interesting because some of the themes were things we thought would happen. Like, it turns out gaming is really exciting to young people. So we kind of assumed that would happen. But then some of it was really not what we expected. So things like sports wasn't about playing sports. It was actually about health and well-being. It turns out that a lot of young people are quite concerned about health and performance and want to understand how they can be better to themselves. So what we did is we took these themes and we then developed a collection of minimum viable kits. So a gamer, a mover, and a chatter. I'll take you through those really, really quickly. So the gamer basically was introduced. We did 40 workshops in the Royal Institution to get feedback from young people. So we were taking them through basically programming their own games, soldering their own game consoles, really understanding how far could we push the boundaries of learning. Does it work better in pairs? Does it work better in groups? Does it work better in individuals? So really understanding the process. The mover is basically like a DIY fuel band. So it's about little data, not big data, so my data. So this was based on sports. And this was very much about how do you qualify, make data important to you, not just quantify it. This is a project that we're going to release next year, which is really exciting. And then we had one which was based on friends, which was not about talking to friends. It was about deepening relationships and making new friends. And this is like the game Cup. So you have a cup and a string and a cup. It's basically like wireless walkie-talkies. You create local networks, and you play games around finding each other in these networks. So again, really tangibly making these concepts real by actually producing things around them. So our design process, we prove a concept, we make a minimum viable product, and then we actually create something which we called an iconic gadget. So we live in a world of really homogeneous technology, and we don't want our gadgets to be homogeneous. So we create iconic gadgets. So this is our DIY gamer, which we released last October, came from the same research project. Basically, you make, play, code, and invent your own games. My favorite thing that was produced is the Metro, just published it as part of this kind of tech selection. And it was a sea of basically Apple-looking type of products, and then this weird little gadget in the middle. And I think there's something really exciting about producing gadgets and technology objects that don't feel homogeneous. There's something really satisfying about that from a making and learning perspective. So our ecosystem is, again, both on and offline. This is how people are making their products. They're going online to find resources. They're doing programming. They're basically going between this on and offline space in really seamless ways, which is really important to us because a lot of that division is not the division of young people. It's the division of us, really. And I think that's a really exciting way of making that digital physical learning very, very seamless. Earlier this year, we launched something called an education box, we basically realized that lots of teachers were buying our kits and we were not doing much to help them. So we released education boxes, which are collections of our kits in packs of 12 or 16, with all the resources a teacher, a facilitator, a makerspace, a fab lab, a library needs to basically use our kits as part of curriculum or as part of a facilitated learning environment. And the thing that's been so exciting about seeing these being utilized in educational spaces is that it really is helping us to understand what we were hoping would happen, that it's not just about the skill, it's about the process of getting to a skill. It's not just about having a sea of developers. It's about learning critical thinking, debugging, problem solving, making mistakes. You're going to make mistakes in building these things, and we want to celebrate that, and we want that to be the learning that both teachers and young people are getting from this process. Beyond just kits, what we're really creating is an ecosystem of resources. So we have tons and tons of resources from online videos, how-to videos, downloadable manuals that take you step by step through actually how to make something, project sheets, which are about inspiration and new kinds of things you can do with the kits, things that help you hack, modify, find new ways of doing things with the product. So automatic watering cans for your Thirsty Plant kit, new kinds of synthesizers for your synthesizer. So really, really exciting kind of new ways of using making as a part of a large learning kind of spectrum. I like showing this quote because I think, well, one, I think that the world that will.i.am is showing is quite exciting because it's not a world that exists, it's a world that we're kind of creating. And from an educational perspective, the thing I really like about it is I feel that us, and it's not just us, there's a lot of exciting things happening in the education tech space. This is about painting a picture of a future which is different than the one we see now. And we think creativity and hands-on learning is really fundamental to that future. So the things that we really hold dear to the processes that we do is one, we really do want to help teachers and families help kids learn the way we think kids learn best, which is hands-on. We see lots of people that from diverse backgrounds, diverse spaces, really learning and understanding technology in the broadest sense of the word because of the hands-on connection to product and to things. It's kind of like 21st century craft to us. Another thing which is really important is, as you can imagine, with the new computer science curriculum, and also just with the pressures of technology, a lot of teachers are terrified. A lot of parents don't know really how to engage with some of these new processes. And the thing that's great about workshops and about kits is that it encourages co-learning. You don't have to stand in front of a class and teach necessarily in that capacity. We see a lot of teachers doing workshops within the classroom, learning together and actually learning from students. There is always in all of our workshops someone that's better than someone else, and they end up helping to co-facilitate a workshop. We think that's a dynamic that can really be interesting in the evolution of how these kinds of skills are taught. And another thing that's really exciting is seeing these not just being used within technology sectors, but across curriculum. So seeing our speaker kits or our gamer kits using as part of creative writing, as part of persuasive writing. Going to, we had one of our schools going to a recycling plant to learn about recycling, to gather all of their materials to then make their speakers. So really being creative about how they're learning and using these kits across curriculum, which is really, really what we want to kind of encourage. And the last thing I'm going to kind of just share is, this is a quote that one of our teacher ambassadors shared at a conference recently. And I just really stands true to kind of, I think, what we believe, that we really don't think technology is going to replace teachers or families or the way this kind of learning is happening. But we really would love to create a context where more teachers are excited about using technology within their practices because it's more related and inspiring to the young people that they're teaching and hopefully more interesting to them as well. So really the future that we're trying to kind of imagine is one that's maybe a little bit less of robots taking over the world and things with blinking eyes, but a world of meaningful gadgets and technologies because you had a hand in making them. We just think that when you make something, you feel slightly different about it, and we don't really see that happening in technology, and so we think that a shift around that relationship technology could be encouraged because people are actually producing it and not just consuming it. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Bethany. It was a great talk. I quite like a look at that gadget later you're having there.